I wanted to share something. Last week, my 9-year-old son came home from school really excited because he was going to run for class council. And I was pretty excited about that as well. I asked him immediately what was his platform, and he very quickly said that it was going to be about deaf education and supporting deaf and hard of hearing children. And I immediately got pretty overwhelmed by that, to be honest. He told us that he wanted to be able to help fight in the same way that he sees his mom and dad fighting for Carter. And it was then that I realized how much of an impact the last 3 years has had on our other son. This has really had a huge impact on our entire family. And this is what's prompted this video. Because in the last couple of weeks we've done many interviews. And our older son, has been very aware of these interviews, and he's been here for many of them. And he's heard us talk, and he knows what it's about. He's old enough to know and understand. And so, at one of the recent interviews, when the reporter left, our older son asked a very simple question. He asked, why do they make it so hard? We had no answer. We don't know why they make it so hard. This is Carter. Why do they make it so hard for Carter and all of the children who are not getting the services that they require and they have a right to? They should have the same service and education and support that hearing children receive. And this is not happening. So I put some thought into this question. And knowing that I could not give it an honest answer, I started to think about, well, where would I get that answer? How can I help answer that question for my older son? And it dawned on me that there's only one person that can answer that question. And that's Premier Ball. And it's ironic because I spoke to Premier Ball face to face very recently. And even though our family has fought publicly in the last 2 years and quietly for a year, so 3 years altogether, we've been fighting for Carter to have an equitable education. Even though in 2017 we filed a human rights complaint against his own Department of Education, even though we sat in the gallery of the House of Assembly with Carter while Lorraine Michaels stood and announced a petition of thousands of signatures supporting the equitable education of deaf and hard of hearing children, with Premier Ball looking up at Carter and us. We've had an enormous fight over the last 3 years. Premier Ball said he was unaware of everything, unaware. Carter only wants what all hearing children get. We don't want any more. Carter wants to have a teacher. Every year, he wants a teacher. All hearing kids know they're going to have a teacher at the beginning of the school year. My child doesn't know that. All hearing kids get to sit in the classroom and be surrounded by their peers. They get to watch language develop. They get to interact and converse with one another, and they get to build bonds and friendships through language. My child is isolated from that. He never gets to witness any role modeling of his language. He never gets to be able to converse and have any meaningful interactions with any of his classmates because our government is not allowing sign language, a sign language program that was offered for free in schools. And they're not even encouraging it. There's no support for ASL, American Sign Language, which is Carter's first language. He has a right to be taught in his first language. I think that it's time for an apology. I think it's time to recognize the mistakes that were done and not allow for one more minute to pass by without these children having access to the education that they have a right to. Every single day that Carter loses is putting him behind. Right now, he is set up to fail. He's excelling in math, yet he's behind substantially in language. He has to have a language in order to learn another language. He will never be bilingual if he's not taught sign language. He has to be able to know a language, to be able to read books, to be able to write, to be able to use the internet, to do the things that all of the hearing kids are doing. He needs these resources. Premier Ball, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed that you've allowed your government to continue to have children treated this way, to allow your government to continue to discriminate and ignore years of pleas. We had the Coalition of Disabilities contact you directly in September 2017. You tell me to my face that no one has ever tried to have a meeting with you, and your door is always open. And that was another lie. I have the letter. I have the date. You deferred it to the Minister of Education, Dale Kirby, who deferred it to the Department of Education. Why? What are you afraid of? Why will you not talk to the parents and talk to these kids to their faces and tell them? Why is it so hard for them to get an education in the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, in the country of Canada, where we all have a right to be educated?